Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chained Opinion Podcast.
A pleasure to be here.
We're uh, we're examining a rather unique situation up north in Canada. MarkCarney, someone who's never been elected to office, is now their prime minister.
And what's fascinating is that he's far from a political newcomer, right? He's
Mhm.
got serious financial credentials. I mean, he headed both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. That says something.
It does. He's guided major economies through some rough patches, the '08 crisis, Brexit, really showing what he's made of under pressure. And then there's his time as the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, which is, well, pretty relevant these days.
It makes you think maybe this is exactly what Canada needs now. Because, let's be honest, the political scene he's walking into is, well, tense. Especially with the U.S. relationship strained because of President Trump's policies.
You're hitting on something important. We're talking trade wars, tariffs, even those comments about annexation. Can you explain how we got here?
Sure. To understand what's happening now, we have to rewind a bit to Justin Trudeau's resignation. Officially, it was internal party struggles back in January, but let's be real, the Liberals weren't popular. The rising cost of living, the housing situation, immigration concerns, it all added up to public discontent.
So Trudeau steps down, and Carney, an economist, steps right into this charged situation.
Yeah.
Do you think his background in finance will help or hurt him with the U.S.?
That's the big question. On the one hand, he knows global economics and financial markets, which could be huge for negotiating and dealing with fallout. But on the other hand, he's never dealt with international diplomacy or political maneuvering.
Especially with someone like Trump, known for being, well, unpredictable.
Exactly. And Carney's been pretty open about criticizing Trump's policies on trade and climate change. He's promised to protect Canada, use their resources, especially energy and negotiations, and keep those retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods until, as he put it, respect is shown.
That's a strong statement from someone new to the political arena. Sounds like Canadians are in for quite a ride.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just Canadians who should be watching. This impacts the global economy, international relations, even the future of North America. This isn't just a change in leadership, it's a possible turning point for Canada. It's such a multi-layered situation. This goes way beyond just economics. You're seeing values clash, national identities even.
Yeah, you're right. Trump's rhetoric, his whole style, it's really different from what Canadians are used to. They tend to be more about diplomacy, community, a less in-your-face approach.
Exactly. And then he makes those comments about annexation, about absorbing Canada into the U.S. That's not something you just throw out there casually,
Yeah.
especially not about your closest ally.
No, definitely not. It's
Yeah.
raised a lot of eyebrows on both sides of the border. Do you think this has made Canadians rethink their whole relationship with the U.S.?
Absolutely. There's a growing feeling of, if we're not respected, if our partnership isn't valued, maybe we need to reconsider things. This whole situation has been a wake-up call. Canadians are having to think about where they stand in the world, what their relationship with their powerful neighbor really means.
It makes you wonder about the long-term impact on the U.S.-Canada relationship. Can things ever go back to how they were?
It's tough to imagine things just going back to normal. There's a sense of disillusionment, a realization that maybe the U.S. isn't the reliable partner it used to be. This could push Canada to be more independent, less reliant on the U.S. for their economy and politics, maybe even more assertive globally.
So, in a way, Trump might have accidentally pushed Canada away.
It's a real possibility. And it's not just Canada. We're seeing this in other parts of the world, too. A move away from U.S. dominance, a desire for a more balanced world.
It's like this situation has created a ripple effect, forcing countries to rethink their alliances and priorities.
Exactly. And the effects of that shift are huge. It'll be fascinating to see how it all unfolds in the next few years.
Okay, we've talked about Carney's background, Trudeau stepping down, the trade war, the impact on U.S.-Canada relations. Let's focus on Carney's leadership now. He said some pretty bold things about standing up to Trump, but what can he actually do?
That's the key question. And that's where it gets tricky. Canada really depends on trade with the U.S., so any aggressive move could backfire, hurting the Canadian economy.
So he's walking a tightrope. He needs to look strong, protect Canadian interests, but he can't afford to completely alienate the U.S.
Exactly. It's a very delicate balance. He needs to be strategic. One option is to focus on diversifying Canada's trade partners, so they're not so dependent on the U.S. market.
Canada's been doing that for a while, haven't they? What new things could Carney realistically try?
He could strengthen ties with the EU, go after trade agreements with fast-growing Asian economies, and build relationships with Latin American countries. It's about creating a more balanced portfolio, not being vulnerable to the whims of just one trading partner.
That makes sense. Any other strategies he could use?
Another option is using Canada's resources to his advantage. They're a big energy producer and rich in things like lumber and minerals. These are things the U.S. needs.
So he could use that as leverage.
Yes, but it has to be done carefully. He can't be too confrontational, firm but diplomatic. Remember, this is all new to him. He's never had to play this kind of high-stakes global game before.
And he's doing it with the whole world watching.
Exactly. The pressure is intense. If he manages to stand up to Trump and protect Canada, it could really solidify his image as a strong leader. But if he messes up, if he makes a wrong move, it could be a disaster for him personally and for Canada as a whole.
So we've talked about the players, the context, the challenges. But what about the Canadian people? How are they reacting to all this?
Well, there's a mix of emotions. Anger and resentment towards Trump and his policies are definitely high. People feel like Canada has been treated unfairly, disrespected.
I could see how that could bring Canadians together, make them rally around their country.
Yes, but along with that, there's anxiety and uncertainty about the future. What will this mean for the economy? Will people lose their jobs? What will the relationship with the U.S. look like going forward?
So a lot of unknowns and a definite sense of unease.
Exactly. And we have to remember that Canada is a very diverse country. There's no single Canadian viewpoint. Different regions, demographics, political leanings, they all have their own perspectives on this.
It's amazing how one event can trigger such a wide range of reactions.
It shows how deeply this issue resonates with Canadians. And it highlights the challenge facing MarkCarney. He needs to find a way to address all these different viewpoints to unite the country under a common goal.
So it's not just about handling the U.S., it's about managing the internal dynamics within Canada, too.
Absolutely. It's a multifaceted challenge, one that will take a lot of skill and political savvy to navigate successfully.
Well, it's a mixed bag, to be honest. You've got some really great journalism happening, in-depth reporting, insightful analysis, holding everyone accountable.
So they're doing their job as watchdogs. Exactly. But you also see a lot of, well, sensationalism, those clickbait headlines and the obvious partisan spin.
Yeah, it makes it tough for people to figure out what's real and what's not.
It really does. It's so important these days to be critical of what we read and hear, to question the stories we're being told, and to look for different perspectives.
Being media literate is, essential now.
Absolutely. We have to be aware of the biases, the agendas, even the financial reasons behind what we see in the media. And we can't be afraid to challenge those narratives, to look for information from other sources.
It reminds us that we all have a part to play in shaping the media, in pushing for better journalism, and supporting those who are committed to truth, accuracy, and holding people accountable.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, as we wrap up this examination of Canadian politics, let's leave our listeners with something to think about, a question to ponder.
Okay, I like it. What I find really interesting is this. We have an economist, someone with zero political experience, stepping onto the world stage at a time when the old way of doing things is being challenged, and Canada is trying to figure out its place with a rather unpredictable U.S.
Exactly. So the question is, can he pull it off? Can he navigate all these complicated issues, both inside Canada and internationally, and set a new course for the country?
That's the question.
It is. And only time will tell what the answer is.
It will. But one thing's certain. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
It certainly will be.
And for those of you joining us on this exploration, remember to share, subscribe, and let us know what you think. You can also find us in audio format on YouTube Music and Spotify. This has been Chained Opinion. Thanks for listening.